America made me a black man.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. They always say, the flower that grows in adversity is the most beautiful flower that you can ever see. Today, I am honored to have this beautiful flower, a Somali, black American. And he says in one of his books, America made me a black man. I would like to know what this beautiful flower is all about. Boyah Farah is one of our guests today, and we will dive into his amazing journey and how he talks passionately about identity and being Somali. Welcome, Boyah, and I'm honestly honored to have you today. And honestly speaking, your bio and everything, that's all about your journey. It's honestly amazing. And thank you so much for giving us the time. And we'd like to know what this is all about.
Wow, what a beautiful thing. What a beautiful introduction. It tells you that I belong. It tells you that the book that I've written, I wrote it for your generation. And I feel like it is wonderful. You use metaphor, flower. I've never heard that. But it tells me something about, that I came from nation, a poet, that we honor words more than anything else. So I am glad to be here. Wonderful, really. As soon as I heard that you're a writer, we need more writers. And thus I said yes.
Yes, we do need writers, and it's true. Keep going, please.
I wrote this book because I carried too many whys. Why was I born into destitute? Why hunger? Why am I orphaned twice? For once my father died. Twice my country died. Why? Why refugee camp? Why poverty? Why hunger? Why everything? Why racism? Why did I become a black man in America? And all these whys that I carry, I didn't know what to do with them. And therefore, I had to find ways to understand the so many whys that I carry. And ultimately, I understood that why is life itself. Why is literature? Why is legacy? Why is ultimately exploration of life, death? And therefore, I wanted to take that why and turn it into a book. And that's what I did. America Made Me a Black Man.
Wow. But before actually you get into, that journey or maybe becoming an author, an accomplished author, honestly, it takes a lot to be where you are today. But I'm quite sure before you actually get to America, there was a little boy from Somalia. We would like to know all that journey all the way to America.
Life, you don't really write. The journey of life is written by life itself. Time writes life. When I was born, I'm the first son in my family. When you get to read the book, you'll know how many names I have. I was given 5 names when I was younger. Why? Because my father is the only son in his family, and I'm the first son in my family. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, whom I call Ayaya in the book, told me that you were a blessed child. So many people get together, they did blessing, they read the Quran, they bang drums, they pray, and thus I came out. And the day I came out, it rained. That's extra blessing for Somali life. And so, and then after that, my father sent me to Nugal Valley. I got polio there, and then I came back. My father died, and then my country died. Then the journey of our lives began, and so we went through refugee camp to refugee camp. I've seen the war. I've seen a place called Habar Walid, a curse of the parent, which you can write about 500 pages of pain, but ultimately Somali people are a nation of poets. They value poetry more than life itself. And therefore, all the pain that I have gone through, it's almost like gathering stories. The one that goes through pain becomes resilient. That's why Somali life is resilient. Nobody can break Somali life. And, so I wanted to explore that. I wanted to tell the young people that despite 40 years of war, despite all these things, we're still alive, we're still beautiful, we're still poetic.
Interesting. And how long were you in the refugee camp?
2 years, in and out. We're going through a lot of different refugee camps.
Will you maybe highlight the most difficult situations that you went through while you were in the refugee camps?
Oh man! All right, let me go through it. One particular moment.
It's okay, we can cry.
Me and a guy named Omar. Omar and I were standing in Kismayo. We were best friends. One morning, every single morning, I used to walk into his house, and he used to walk to my house, and we used to meet in the middle. One morning, I walked, and he walked, not knowing that we were walking towards each other. And when we saw each other, we smiled. Maybe like a few seconds later, there was an extraordinary war in the middle of the city. He looked at me, I looked at him. We were boys. We were 100% sure that he was gonna die and I was gonna die. And so we looked at each other and we were like, and we almost want to see each other in heaven, rest in peace. We're alive though. And, there was a man running away. He jumped into a vehicle and left, and I assume he died. And I went into the mosque, and he assumed that I died. A year later, we saw each other in Yutanga refugee camp outside of Mombasa, Kenya. I'm walking, and he's walking towards me. He has no shirt, but I have a shirt. I'm looking at this kid coming to me, and he's coming to me. And I am 100% sure you cannot come from death. No one returns from death. So I thought he died. But he also thought I died. And so we got closer to each other. And then we look at each other. He stood right there, and I stood next, facing each other. And he's like, we touch each other. It's almost like a movie. And he's like, you're alive. This is me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm alive too. We made it. I took him that day, and I took him to my tent. And we stayed there. And we went to America together.
So you went to to America at the same time?
No. I went there, and then I sponsored him.
Were you guys also having, accessible education in the refugee camps, or there was nothing?
In the refugee camp, you're a prisoner of life. You have no access. You're confined into a place with diseases, dengue, malaria, other diseases. In fact, I saw so many people dying in a refugee camp than I saw during the war. But the refugee camp, we had access to food, water, and a tent. But our minds were decaying. In the morning, you get up and you eat, and you look at the sky, you look at the trees, and you imagine someone's gonna die today and you're gonna participate. So we actually used to dig graves. We do grave diggers as kids, because so many people were dying in a refugee camp of dengue, malaria, other TB. So our job as pre-teenagers were to, bury the dead with grave diggers. So it's really, really horrific place. The good thing was the United Nations, provided tents, a tent for a hospital, service as a hospital, another tent that serves as distribution of food. Basically, we had food, shelter, and access to basic medical services. That's it. But you couldn't get out. The only time I tried to get out, I got beat up by Kenyan police. And I actually wrote an essay. The first essay I read for The Guardian was about that.
Wow. And also you just mentioned the diseases that were quite, spreading, malaria, TB, all this. Did any of those affect you or?
Indeed, it did. I mean, actually the day I left to America, I had malaria, and two of my mother adopted two boys. They both died 7 days apart in the refugee camp, Yutanga refugee camp. And the third person that's supposed to die was me, because I had malaria. And I had to sit and beg God, dear God. I had to write a letter to God. Dear God, please don't kill me here. Let me get to America. Because all of us knew that we were going to make it to America, So I really had to write a letter every night, look at the stars, because in the middle of the night, the refugee camp is dark. You could see all the bright, stars, which is absolutely beautiful. And we used to imagine those stars to be America. We want to get to America. So I used to sit and talk to God and, dear God, please let me make it to America. Don't let me die here. And I guess those prayers were answered. And I actually had malaria when I get to America.
And how did you survive? Did you go to the hospital?
Destiny is real. You're not going to die if it's not destined for you. You have to always believe that nothing is more powerful than destiny. Well, the one who's destined to expire shall expire. The one who's not destined shall stay.
Interesting. And what role was, your community, the society, your parents, relatives, were they playing when it comes to, supporting you and, building your dream when you went to America?
Well, when you went to America, you know how to swim? Can you say you can swim without touching the water? No, America's huge. When you get there, first of all, a lot of the immigrants that are trying to come into America, they really think that's the heaven. You really do not know what you're entering. But you're entering a country of over 350 million people with different cultures, and you don't even know you're the low echelon of the society. I never knew I'm a black man in America. I knew that I am my father's son. I am from a nation of poet. My people they don't have any hierarchy. They have extraordinary confidence. We look at people in the eyes and tell them who we are. That's who I was. So I really did not know that America would look at me as one of its own slaves, because I can never be that.
Wow. And I understand that you've spent 30 years of your life in America. Could you maybe, highlight how life was in those 30 years, what you experienced trying to, understand the, diversity, the community is diversified in the US. We have different communities, people from different races. How was your experience and what are the highlights of your life?
Well, if you're, it was almost like a dance metaphorically, a dance with danger, dance with beauty, dance with the passage of time. Dance. It was a great dance. And when I say great dance, you do not know, in war, I knew danger. And I knew my father was a warrior. So as is my grandfather, my whole culture produces people who fear poetry more than death. So when I really got there, I thought that I saw people with no arms, just people that have no guns, clean streets. So to me, it was like, oh, I'm in America? All right, I can be a doctor. I can be whatever I want to be. But I didn't know that the danger was actually underneath. The danger is psychological warfare. I do not know psychological warfare. As a Somali culture, as a black man, as African-born American, I know one thing. I know war and I know peace, but I do not know psychological warfare. So 30 years of psychological warfare can actually destroy you.
What is psychological warfare all about?
Well, psychological warfare is someone who's looking at you and say you're beautiful, but at the same time, they're trying to destroy your life.
Maybe an incident, if you don't mind.
For example, in the Somali culture, if they don't like you, they'll just tell you, I don't like you, right? They fight you. But if they welcome you, then they feed you. In my grandmother's culture, we feed the strangers. Those who come, it's a noble culture that feeds the stranger. And when strangers care for you, you care for them. But in American culture, it's, the war against black people is, for example, 30 years of living in the US, I found out one thing. Black people, even though they're born in America, I feel as if they are immigrants. When your own country rejects you, what do? If I didn't have a place like this to escape, where would an African-American child go? Where do they belong? What happened to their identity? What happened to their country? What happened to the streets they used to drive around when they were a child? What happened to the food? What happened to everything when you're rejected? So this particular book that I wrote, America Made Me a Black Man, it's a metaphor for that pain. One day, me and my brother were buying a car. We went to a dealership, And normally when I look at people, when I see people, I look at them in the eyes, because my father told me the eyes never lie. Look at people in the eyes, they'll tell you who they are. So I'm looking at the dealer, the guy who's selling me the car in the eyes to tell me if he's telling the truth or not. So I just look at him in the eyes. How much is the car? And he was like, you guys are not from America. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, no. Black people in America cannot look at me in the eyes. You can. You must be born somewhere else. I never knew that. That I thought human beings were all equal. White people, I can look at them in the eyes the way I want it. Just because I look at them just as human beings, just like me. But for them, they molded, they made black people in America as if they are subhumans. And then they look at all black people the same, including African-born Americans. Like I came into America with a culture that says, look at people in the eyes, assess them, don't fear human beings, fear God. So those are the things that I've discovered over the years. But it was not just the pain, it was also beauty. I got educated in America. I learned to drive in America. I love the American highways. I love the American music. I love the American food. I miss Chipotle. There's so many things I miss about America when I'm in Africa. And when I'm in America, I miss Africa and the beauty and the culture and the poetry and the dance. The book says, I want the two continents to be proud of me. I want two countries to be proud of me. I want Somalia to be proud of me. I want Africa to be proud of me. And I also want America to be proud of me as well, because I carry all.
And I'm quite sure through all those challenges, there must be, victories, triumphs. What are the most significant ones that you remember?
I look at life as victory. It's the fact that you were born victory. Being born is given. To be human is given. To have humane, to feel humane is something that you must develop. I look at life itself, health itself, as triumphant. So every challenge that you're going through in life is a degree of beauty, because you cannot learn without pain. So I look at my life as absolutely gorgeous. The fact that I'm a writer, the fact that I travel, the fact that I came from a nation of poet. If you're a Somali and so a lot of you think that because of 40 years of challenges, all of a sudden you don't want to be Somali. No, you got to be more Somali now than ever before, because you're resilient.
Wow, interesting. But when we look at the book, America made me a black man, that it's not just a sentence. It carries a lot of things. And what is this all about? There must be a point in your life where you realize actually you spoke about the psychological, tortures and how people view who, black people are. At one, there's always that circumstance or, a challenge or anything that happened in your life or event that made you actually, have this context of your book, or maybe the topic itself. I want to know, what is all this all about?
Well, this book speaks to all immigrants. It's a story of immigrants. It's also a story of a young boy who was born into many things, and including pain, which is lessons of life. If you're not going through pain, you're not learning. But the trigger of the book is, I wanted to write, when I look at life in its totality, my life, and I see so many hiccups, pain. And my agent said to me, I was writing a book called Sun Care My Blood, which I would dedicate it to my dad, my father. May he rest in peace. Who's departed soul, in the galaxy, who's now living in the galaxy of the dead, which we will all go, right? I wanted to write a book that honors father, 400, over 1,000 pages. That's what I want to write. And so my agent said, what are you writing for America? And I said, to America, there's been a lot of challenges. I project a lot of love into the American culture. I used to teach at a university, work at a university, and I used to project so much love because America gave me access to education, right? When strangers care for you, what do? You care for them. So white people care for me when I get into the country, which is strangers. I'm not white. I don't have their culture. So I thought Americans in totality, projected love into my life when I was younger, so I want to do the same thing. But the more love I projected, the more love I did, the more good things I did, the more challenges I got as a black man living in America. And I didn't understand why. And so, like I said earlier, I carry so many whys, and I want to turn those whys into literature, into writing. And that's how the book came out. Why?
Interesting. And you speak about identity so much. And what does that have to do with you as a person?
Who's Somali life? I mean, Somalia, we're not just a nation of poetry. We're not a nation of camels and, a beautiful beaches, the longest coast probably in East Africa. We're not those souls who are brave only. We're also a nation that has been beat down for the last hundreds of years. When I read Malcolm's book, I thought it was my father's book. So Somalia has been struggling for the last 400 years because Somali people refused to capitulate to many colonials, and therefore they've gone through a lot of issues, and therefore our identity has been fractured. And the best way to restore your identity is through poetry and through writing and through literature. I feel like that I'm whole now than when I started the book. So
Wow.
book gives you that wholesome
Identity.
Thus, I'm proud again.
Interesting. And you just mentioned that you got your education in the States.
Yes.
And, you're teaching. We would like to know which university, what did you study?
Well, I study, I have more than one degree. I never talk about my degrees. I always tell them, hey, I'm a writer. That's it. But really, be honest speaking, I got to America. My mother had, 7 of us. I'm the third child. My mom used to tell me to get educated. My father, may he rest in peace, the day he died, I'm the one that he talked to. He says, dear son, I'm leaving. My father knew he was going to die. And, when he talked to me, he says, dear son, I'm leaving. You're in charge of the family. So as a child, watching my father die, I had that in my head, that I had to be the man in the house. And so when I got to America, I really knew that my father told me to be a doctor. But as I was attending Bedford High School, shout out to Bedford High School, one of the best people ever outside of Boston. Bedford High School, I took a class, science class, and in the science class you have to dissect.
Absolutely, yeah,
a
I
frog,
understand.
or whatever it is, or little animal, whatever. I hated it. I hated every single class I ever took it. And so at the time, I remember someone telling me, hey, you're a writer. Mr. Maxwell, my teacher, English teacher, told me, you're a writer. Esty, my ESL teacher at the time, told me, I'm a writer. But from the get-go, I wanted to get educated. Also, my mother, I used to come late almost every night as a teenager because I had a car, I had a lot of confidence, I had everything when I was a teenager. Yeah, because I wanted to be like America. I wanted to dance like America. I wanted to wear clothes like America. I wanted to, at the time they had FUBU, they had Sean Jones, they had a lot of, this is the era music and clothes came out in America. And my mom, one time, my mom used to beat me up almost every night I come home. One night, after she prayed, she came to me. Actually, I write that in the book. She comes to me and says, dear, sit down. I thought she was going to beat me up and I'll just go back to service. It's just Somali culture. Mama's beating is nothing but love. So my mom stood in front of me and she prayed and she said, if any of my kids, if you become a bad boy, and if any of my kids mimic you because you're the role model, I pray that you go to hell. As a Muslim, when your mom curses you, you know what time it is. And that is actually what changed me. That's actually the reason why I had to do whatever I can to get educated. After that day, mama cursed me, I came home on time. I listened to mom. Oh, mom, don't curse me, all right? I wish she beat me more than she cursed me. Cursing is bigger in the Somali culture. So, and then I went to community college. I got an associate degree. Then I went to a bachelor's degree and got a management information system. And then I got master's degree in instructional design. And then I went back to school to become, every Somali boy wanted to be in politics. Then I went back to try to become a politician. I hated it after I tried. Then I went back to become a writer. I quit. And then after that, one day I sit with God and I said, "Dear God, I'm gonna write a book. I'm not gonna get a haircut. I'm not gonna buy a new car. I'm not gonna buy any new clothes until I see my book." And so I put 10,000 hours into writing. Every single day I wrote until I saw my book at the bookshelves. And the day that my book came out, I got a rent-a-car and I drove interstate to see my book. Every time I would go to a bookstore, I ask, "Can you find that book, America Made Me a Black Man?" They found the book. I look at the book and I said, "I'm the author." That was the greatest gift that I was looking for the 10,000 hours I put into the writing.
Wow.
That's
Have
what
you
I'm
ever
looking at.
faced rejection?
Lots of it. But rejection is nothing but beautiful things. The more you reject, the more you learn. You have to embrace it.
You know, you turn a manuscript into a book. There's a lot of stages and steps you go through, and maybe you try to find publishers. And didn't you find it, you know, challenging or rejections? You haven't faced any of those?
Look,
Given that you said you are a black man, and you always, you know, they see you or belittle you, see you, you know, as a different human being.
that's a
we went
great
to-
question.
Yeah.
I'm not really a black man in a sense that I have the same culture as black people. No, I'm a warrior. You know, I come from the nation of poets. My father, the only thing I inherit from my father is a life that says, I love you, but reciprocate the love. You understand? I have an extraordinary confidence that I can do whatever I want out of life. And if I get rejected, I try it again. So many times I got rejected. But every time I get rejected, I want to prove those who reject me wrong. I'll give you one example. Every single day, I used to go to a place called Starbucks. Starbucks were kind to me. They used to give me free coffee because every morning at 6 a.m. I get in. And I used to sit in one seat, one drinks, one gaze, every single morning. And the time has to be exactly the same. And every morning, one day, I saw an elderly white man who took my seat. I went to that person and says, "I'm a writer. This is the only seat that I love. I'll buy your coffee. Please give up the seat." As soon as they say I'm a writer, normally Americans will give up the seat and says, "Oh my God, what do you write? Take it." One day, a guy came to me and he says, "What do you do every day?" And I said, I want to be a writer. I want to publish books. The guy looked at me and he says, "What is your name?" And I said, "Boyah." He said, "You got a funny name. You're black. You're an immigrant. You have a disability because I see you come in. For you to get published, it's like getting a strike. It's like getting a lightning strike, which is 0.0000%. He said, "You're never going to write a book. Don't try it. Don't even waste your time." And he also said to me that he's been in the industry for 30 years. He's been an agent. I swear to God, I listened to him and I listened to him and I listened to him and I looked at him and I said, "I'm going to prove you wrong." Today, I'm looking for that man. If he's listening to me, I'm going to give him my book for free.
For free.
Yes.
We have to look for him, definitely.
Yes. So what I'm saying is every single challenge you go through is nothing but beauty. It's nothing but God telling you, try again. Try again.
Wow, interesting. And you spent almost 30 years in America. After that, you went back to Somalia.
I had to discover who I am. Because 30 years of a dance, you know, metaphorically, in that flower that you describe, being in America, American highways, becoming a lecturer, you know, becoming a little bit known. I wanted to discover who I am, really. You know, I wanted to like walk in the footprints of my father, my mom, and my grandmother, whom she now lives in the galaxy of the dead. May she rest in peace. I wanted to rediscover who I am as authentically Somali. I'm proud of every single journey there is. So I went back and drink camel milk and smell the camel aroma, you know, and walk in the land, touch the land and says, "Dear land, I love you. I'm back." This is the land of fragrance. You know what that means? In the American malls, when you go inside the mall, it smells fragrance. This land is blessed by God. It smells like cologne. It feels better than Kevin Kline obsession, better than Versace, better than, it's natural. You know, it's God sent. This is the land I was born. This is the land that prepared me for America. This is the land that prepared me for war. This is the land that prepared me for many, many challenges in life. This is where I used to, you know, run around when I was a child as a nomad. My grandmother used to live here.
How was your experience?
Love.
Any challenge?
I normally welcome challenges because challenges are nothing but, like I said, teaching. Challenges means you're learning. I think the most educated people in this part of the world as Somalis. Why? We've gone through 40 years of challenges. That's why Somalis are incredibly successful everywhere they go. So I look at what I have gone through as nothing but challenges. When I came back, every single little challenges that I saw, I smiled and I was like, this is beautiful.
But remember, the moment you travel to the US, you spend 30 years, your, opinions, perspective about so many things do change. And when you came back to Somalia, there must be so many challenges of things, maybe the way people think, the way people, govern as well, when it comes to politics, education, everything. There must be differences.
No. I'm not saying there was no differences. My mindset is different. I'm an educated. In the West, I'm a reader of life. I've gone through more things than a lot of human beings go through. So I know that I carry more than what the locals carry, right? But I wanted to be able to relearn, rediscover, like there was some small little rituals, right? Life is about a collection of rituals. If you're saying the rituals that I've got used to for the last 30 years, it's changed. The rituals that I rediscovered in Somalia was completely different. But I'm the owner of the land. That's where I belong. I was remembering my birth. People that gave birth to me. So those small rituals for me was like a child learning again that are invisible and people don't see.
How long were you in Somalia?
On and off, 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
And there's a video of yours that was really trending. And you're like, I went to Somalia and I saw people are different. I saw politics, nothing is working out. You've seen education, nothing is working out. And it was, Somali, you were speaking Somali. I'm sure you remember that video. And honestly, that was more than just words.
Well, look, I love to see, young generation carry every generation is supposed to leave something behind. And I think what's missing is your generation. What do you want to leave behind? My generation, I'm in between those who started the war and those who participated in the war. I'm right there. But everything after that is missing. It doesn't matter if you're a Chinese American, if you're African American, if you're European American, if you're a Kenyan American, you still have that Somali American, right? It doesn't, Somali American, if you're Somali, you belong. And what's missing out, what I saw is the educated class. That's what's missing. And I also, those educated class, what's missing is humbleness. Humbleness, the ability for you to reconnect who you are and sit on the ground, sit on the dirt, take the glasses off, take the shades off. Look at human beings are those who live in Somalia. They kept the country together for the last 4 years when you and I were outside of the country. When I was driving on American highways, enjoying it, there was somebody sitting in Mogadishu, the lovely city that they mimicked after Rome, the city of coffee and beauty and beaches. Someone was taking care of the country, right? So we have to appreciate those who were already there to take care of the country. But what I have seen is, of course, I saw people this is not a condemnation, right? This is love. Of course, when you go through a lot of pain, when you go through a lot of negative projection of the Somali life, of course, young people lack confidence. Like for example, the lightning screen, the girls use a lot of that, bleaching. And you say, well, you're beautiful. But because the projection, they don't look at that. Then you see a lot of boys, my students that I teach in Somalia, they all want to leave. The girls want to bleach themselves. The boys want to leave. There's a lot of uneducated people who are ruling the country. What do you expect? Who's gonna fix the country for you? You understand? So my advice to you, as those people who are educated or living in the West, life is a challenge. Life, at the end, remember what I said, why? At the end, why turns to legacy, death, literature. It's better for you to leave behind something authentic for the young. It is you who's supposed to build the country. You, the educated class in the West.
And how do you see education shaping the future of Somalia?
I see a lot of bright future. And the reason being is Somali people are now learners of life. You know, you're from Australia, I'm from America, someone else from China, and we have oneness Somali, we have oneness Muslim, we have oneness nation of poets. There's a lot we have more commonality than we have our differences. I just wrote an essay. I don't know if they're going to publish it, but the essay says Somali people, despite those differences that we have, did not come from us. It came from those who want to destroy us. For sure. We don't have those differences. It's made up.
Wow. And do you think, when you went back to Somalia, you experienced, do you think the government has a huge influence in, the daily life or the social life of the people in Somalia?
Life, human beings without government are orphans. When I said, I think in the book I even wrote it, I'm orphaned twice. Every Somali is an orphan, period. When I say I'm an orphan twice, my father died, I became an orphan, right? Then my country died, I became an orphan again. You are only respected when you have a government anywhere in the world. When I did one time, I was part of a Harvard convention, I was in New York, and there was like an alumni, gathering in New York. And I'm not sure, but I think I was the only black. And as soon as everyone knew that I'm from Somalia, everyone wanted to cry for me. Oh my God, you're from Somalia. We're going to pray for you. You know how that makes you feel?
It's so terrible, honestly.
It's
horrible.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I always have to look at people who says, stop it. Just because you saw a few negative things about Somali people, that is bullshit. Somali people are beautiful people. Somali culture, beautiful culture. Don't feel bad for me. I did not come from your image or your perception. I came from people, brave people that's part of that world. But land itself is meaningless without people. We need our people to appreciate the land. That's it. If you don't appreciate the land belongs to God. And other people will come in and appreciate the land. It is your job to appreciate the land.
So do you think, the Somalis in diaspora should come back and, rebuild their country, especially the government? Because the government plays a big role in every country. You've said it. If the government is working and everything is stable, then the country can flourish in many ways.
The government cannot work without your participation. Who are you? Who's the government? Human beings. I just wrote an essay. Now, the essay that I just wrote, it has some elements of how Rwanda has now, they're using the total summation of its intellect. That includes women. Every university that I've ever been to in America is dominated by Somali women. How come we're not using their intellect to build a country? How come? The summation of our intellect is how we can build this nation. The day that we say, for example, Rwanda, I think 61% of the government employees are women, because they realize that more men died in our war and there are more women educated in Rwanda, and therefore the guy is so intelligent that he uses a merit-based system, where we use an entitlement-based system. Two different things. Entitlement is basically, which clan are you? Come in, you're this position. But when you're merit-based, you say, what do you know? The concentration of Ivy League educated workers in Africa is probably Rwanda. That's why Rwanda is flourishing. And that's why Somalia is going back. So you just have to make sure young people, those who are educated, understand. And don't blame the government. Come in and do your job. Start companies, start something, and the government will be influenced by you.
I believe, many of the youngsters, just like me, they have fear. The fact that, there's a stereotype going around, tribalism, and corruption is something that is, a disease that's recurring in Somalia. And how people like you, me, writers, authors, people who are educated, how can they make a difference in Somalia's government?
You just said something, perception. It's all perception. The first time I came back to Somalia, I was so petrified. Because I'm going back to war again. You know what I mean? But I realized that someone else put a chip inside my head, that there was no war, that people sit around in the coffee shops, that there are, people do their daily lives. If there is a human beings living in Somalia, you can live there. No one knows who you really are. No one cares. It's all in your mind. It's perception. It's totally perception. That's it. In my book, I write about how does America look at Africans, and who put those things in their head? Media. How do the Africans look at America, American black, and who put those things in their head? Media. The same media projected Somali life to be terrible, but it's not true. It's not true.
So we need to speak up and use media in a positive way, I reckon.
You need to come and visit. Then you can destroy that media, that perception in your head. That fear that I had that says if you go back to Somalia, you're going to die, is gone now. I love Somali culture, and I love Somalia as well. It's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely peaceful. And what we're missing is the educated class to use a merit-based system. That's it. If Somalis are succeeding in Kenya, they're succeeding in Minnesota. If you go to Minnesota, it's remarkable. If they're succeeding almost every country they went to, they can succeed home. Don't tell me they cannot.
So they can.
Of course they can.
They need to believe in themselves then.
Believe in themselves.
Absolutely.
And sit, work.
And what will you tell the youth now?
Dear young Somalis, you can do it. It's your time. There's a lot of opportunities in Somalia. There's enough resources. You can feed Africa. Really, with the amount of resources Somalia as a country has, you are blessed. Forget about those perceptions. Come and see. Work in silence and work in groups and destroy this perception that was propagated by those who want to destroy us, that Somalia is broken. Somali people hate each other based on clan, which is not true. Nothing. We didn't have a Rwanda genocide style. We know Somali people intermarry. We're the same blood. I've gone through the war. You're not going to lie to me. Somalis intermarry, they're one. And it is your job to take that, project it, and build a country and leave a legacy. I'm just a writer. You're a poet. Our job is to wake up the people and tell them that we can fight against poverty. We can fight against hunger. We can fight against corruption. We can fight against, lack of healthcare system. We can fight against gender discrimination. I would love to see young Somali women who are almost every university that I went to, including Harvard. There were more Somali women than men. We need their intellect. Come back home and do work. Or if you don't do that, then you have no right to complain.
And you must have, a vision or a legacy that you want to leave behind as a writer, who you are. So what kind of legacy are you hoping to leave behind?
I love to build schools. I love to write more than one book. Leave legacy for the living. I value more. I value small things in life. Coffee, gaze, looking at the beach, see a child play. Small little things. There's small ritual things that you don't look at as beautiful. I look at as beautiful. I value those small ritualistic things that you see every single day. I'm a gatherer of that more than money. Money, you can leave a legacy with it. Wealth, you can leave a legacy with it. It doesn't mean anything. It's not going to go to the grave with you. The day that you expire, you leave everything behind. Is what you do with your life and your time and your wealth that you can claim in the galaxy of the dead. So my advice to you is be the gatherer of blessing, be the gatherer of work, be the gatherer. Smallest thing you can give is smallest charity in life is to smile. And so those are smaller things that I gather, small things. And I want to leave something behind for the living, which is literature.
Wow,
And
literature
schools,
is
yeah.
rich.
And we'll see what happens.
Wow.
I mean, there's the reason why we just met, right?
I know. If we don't reconnect, and we have so many things in common. When writers come, they make a lot of changes in the society. They inspire, and in as much as media is honestly biased in this generation, we hope that we're going to be the change makers in the future. And Boyah said, "America made me a black man." Indeed, as we've heard his story, America made him a black man. Thank you so much for watching us. I am Miskinor Abdullahi, and see you soon.
Appreciate the love. Keep doing what you're doing. Never stop. I'm proud of you. I really want you to write a book. I really want you to write, another generation to write. I really want us to write. The best way to destroy perception, negative perception, is to confront it with beautiful stories.